Q103, Albany's rock station. Honor and a privilege to be joined on the phone right now by Mike Shinoda, of course, of the band Linkin Park, who is celebrating a huge week. Congratulations to you first and foremost, man. Earlier this week, the Guitar Center Rockwalk on a Wednesday. You guys got the distinct honor of being a part of that.
Yeah, that was, crazy. Just so cool. And just to give, my personal experience with it was like I showed up and I walked in and I came through the front door, so it was like I'm looking down on the ground, and it's Jimmy Page, and it's, Eric Clapton and Iron Maiden, and just all of these incredible artists, handprints in the concrete, and just knowing, and they had literally like already marked off our box, it's just like this blank, like 3 blank tiles where our hands were going to go. Such an incredible thing, so cool.
Now, when you got the call, how long ago did you get the call? And secondly, when you got it, what was your initial reaction?
This is actually a really funny story, and I think our management office is a little bit embarrassed by this. The information about being inducted into their Walk of Fame, essentially, was buried in an email with like 3 pages of promotional stuff. It's like, they were like, yeah, you're going to be doing this, and you're going to be doing these interviews, and then the album, the song is going to do this, and they're going to do this promo with UFC, and the album's going to come out, and blah, 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 and then we're going to do Guitar Center Rockwalk, and then da-da-da. And I was like, what do you mean Rockwalk? Like the Walk of Fame thing? And I sent this email back like, wait a minute, that's really cool. And they're like, oh, yeah, we didn't tell you that? Like, no, you didn't tell me that.
Kind of an important thing to leave off, It
was cool. Yeah. No, it was definitely amazing. And especially at a moment when this album, just to kind of put it in perspective, this album, The Hunting Party, is a rock album, okay? So, like, the last few albums have been a little more electro, a little more eclectic. And, generally we keep things pretty high energy, but I think especially at this moment, rock music, at least in general, is a little softer. And our original demos for this album were a little bit softer. And there was a day when I listened to it and I just went, we can't do this. This is not like kind of just derivative. Rock music is going poppier than it's ever been, and I'm just not comfortable going there. We got to go against the grain. Let's, eventually that turned into the idea, let's get back in touch with the things that, the kind of rock music that inspired us to be musicians in the first place. Not to be Linkin Park, not to be, this band, but just to pick up an instrument and play. And it ended up being really heavy stuff, like really visceral thrash stuff and metal stuff and punk stuff and to some degree like heavier indie rock of the time too. But it was kind of thinking back to like before the band ever started. And now we ended up making an album which we've gotten some of the best critical response we've gotten as long as I can remember. Even our first album, which is our best-selling album, got an average of like 2.5 to 3 stars out of 5 from everything. People didn't like it, even though it sold like crazy. And then now we're getting like 5-star reviews from people on our 6th album, which is just, it's nuts. It's such a weird way to kind of come full circle.
Well, and I'm glad you went into the whole thing about that, because I was going to ask if that was a natural progression to go into The Hunting Party, because you came out with Guilty All the Same, the first track, and it was really the way of leading to the fans going, hey, we're back with a rock record now. And, of course, you did a lot of guest appearances on this album. How did those collaborations end up working out?
Oh, it was a couple of things. Like, first of all, this album is the first completely self-produced album. I've always been our in-house producer, and I've always played a role in producing all of our albums, like to some degree, some more than others. And then we got a chance to work with Rick Rubin for a number of years. And when we started on The Hunting Party, I think we just knew what it was supposed to be once it really got underway, and we just got to the point where we said, we've got this. We don't need anybody else's help. We know what it's supposed to be. Now, there were a couple moments, though, when our band, being a group of guys who can, we play in many different styles. Like, people know that from our various albums that, stylistically we jump all over the place, and you kind of never know what you're in for.
Mm-hmm.
On this album, though, there were moments when we said, I can play something that sounds like System of a Down. Like, I can estimate that for sure. but is it going to be as good as actually getting Darren from System of a Down to come in and play it? Like, it's probably our best bet is going to be to have the guy who
is best known for that,
lives and breathes that thing to come in and do it. And that was a kind of a lesson that we learned as soon as I think that the Darren one was probably the one where it really came into focus. Like, there's a time and a place where you got to just go to the guy or guys that are the thing. And by the way, mixing his thing with our thing yielded results that were, you can hear him in there, but it doesn't sound like System, and it doesn't just sound like Linkin Park. It's this weird other thing.
Yeah, it's a very good song. I mean, you guys did a great collaboration there. You have Paige Hamilton on the song All or Nothing. And when I more so get towards those collaborations, as you're saying, in certain collaborations with Paige and Darren there, it kind of lent to the style of the band that person comes from.
The weird thing about the Paige one was that we wrote that song. That it was like the reason we called Paige was because 2 days before I sang that chorus, and all the music was there. I sang all the vocals, and then I listened to it the next day, and I went, oh man, this sounds so much like Helmet that I would feel bad putting it out into the world without like at least letting him know that it exists,
right?
Like as like homage to like Helmet. I said so. We called him up and. It wasn't 2 days. That was the course of like getting to the point where we called them, and we reached out to him and got him in the studio. And I told him, look, man, like this is how it went down, and I've always loved Helmet, and I just wanted, even if you don't want to sing on the song or play on the song or whatever, I just wanted to do you the respect of like letting you be the first one to hear it. If you don't want to work on it, that's okay. But I just wanted to let you know that without Helmet, this song would have never existed. So here it is. And he heard it and he loved it, and he came and played and sang on it, and it was such a nice thing. And plus, he's an awesome dude. So it was all good.
You know, it's so cool to talk to you about that, because you guys are still true music fans at the end of the day. Though you've been through it now, you're on 6 albums, you guys been around for quite some time, you're still true music fans in your heart, being from the Guitar Center Rockwalk to working with Paige on this record. Is there anybody else that maybe you want to work with down the line?
I mean, at this point, I feel like we got, some 4 amazing collaborations with Rakim, Paige from Helmet, Darren, and Tom Morello on this record, which, by the way, just to be clear, if anybody out there is listening and they're like the biggest Rage fan in the world, like this song that we did with Tom doesn't have vocals on it, and it doesn't sound like Rage Against the Machine. It was more about hanging out with Tom and picking his brain and him picking our brain and just getting familiar. And because the experience was so cool, we wanted to include that instrumental because that's what we did that day. But to be honest, like I would love to get together with Tom again and like make an actual song with vocals and whatever. I think that we learned enough from the first time we did it that we'd be able to do a more of a song next time. So we'll see what happens. We're still, I emailed Tom the other day to tell him thanks for his participation on it and everything, and he sent back this really email. We're all good and stuff. So hopefully someday we'll be able to get together and make something cool.
Well, that's cool. I hope so too, because that song definitely caught me off guard. It's a great song. It's a great song. It fits well into the record, but like you said, it's not what you were thinking of. Like as soon as you see it featuring Tom Morello, you have this envision in your head of what it's going to be. But it came out to be something different and still a great track. Yeah,
I feel like we should have written on it featuring Tom Morello, but it doesn't sound like Rage or Audio Slave, so don't get that in your head.
Well, you guys got a lot coming up, man. You always seem to stay busy. You got the tour with 30 Seconds to Mars coming up later on this summer. Also, you have the Linkin Park Underground Summit, which will be hitting New York State on August 21st. When you guys are picking the locations for those things, how does that come into play?
It's kind of random. It's based on where we've had them before, and it's based on where we think we can get. It's kind of a central location where a lot of other fans can get to. Because, to be honest, for those that don't know, our fan club is called the Linkin Park Underground, and it's not just for like super uber fans who are like live and breathe Linkin Park and have our logos on everything. Although those fans exist, and they'll come to like 10 shows on a tour, or the whole tour or something. There are also the vast majority of people who are in Linkin Park Underground are there because, for example, they want to get tickets earlier than everybody else, or they want to get better seats, or they want an opportunity to get special merchandise that other people can't get. Like those are really the more average and mainstream perks of being in LPU. The a digital membership is only like $20. So, just to put it in perspective, a summit is essentially, for the LPU members, it's the equivalent of like Linkin Park Comic Con.
Okay.
So you go, and it's all about, the band and the relationship with the fans. So when you come to the summit, you'll be invited to fan events where you guys get together. You have, maybe there's sports activities, maybe there's lunches together, maybe you hang out with the band's crew and you learn about what it's like to put on the show. You actually get to walk backstage, and some people take a tour of like the dressing room and what is it like to like be on tour and eat at the venue, or where do you go to the bathroom or whatever. Like all that stuff you get to actually go check out, and you get to check out in particular the band's instruments. You get to check out the stage. We do a special little performance and a Q&A with the entire group, so everybody at the summit, and we take pictures with everybody and sign everybody's stuff. So they're always very special. We're going to be doing one in New York. We're also going to be doing one in Texas. We're super excited about it, as always.
Well, that's cool, man. Definitely looking forward to it. That's August 21st in Buffalo. To wrap things up here, I mean, obviously, like you said, you come from the first record to now your sixth album, the critical acclaim. What do you attribute the longevity of the band to?
Well, it's funny because if you look at the artists who we collaborated with on the album, from Rakim to especially Helmet, System of a Down, and Rage Against the Machine, you've got groups that have had notorious, in those three rock groups, disagreements and stuff that's been difficult for them to get over. And in talking with those guys and talking about, the differences between band dynamics, every band is different, from them to one, even from Rage to Helmet to System, like each of those bands are very different from one another. And we're just very appreciative of the fact that whatever difficult thing comes up for our band, we've always, at least up until this point, been able to kind of look each other in the face and talk about the difficult stuff, or deal with things that are difficult in a respectful way, whatever it may be. So yeah, if it's tough. Just as an easy example, it's tough when you bring in a demo on an album and you've put in a month's worth of work on it, and you love the song, and you play it for the other guys, and they don't like it. That's difficult. And for every band, that kind of a thing, can happen in different facets of their creative and professional lives. And in our band, we've had so far, we've been able to, get over it.
Well, and hopefully continued success from this point on, man. Obviously looking forward to see how the SoundScan is coming up this week with the new album Hunting Party. Mike Shinoda on the line with us, Q103. One last thing, brother. I just have to ask this because I was a fan of it. Fort Minor, we ever going to see something from that again in the future?
I've always said that, the Fort Minor thing was a ton of fun to do, and I would do it again. I don't know. I don't have any plans to do it right now. We'll see what happens. You did mention, something you said caught my ear just now. You did mention SoundScan and numbers. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, for the record, when we first started this album, I wrote a couple of little quick demos, and I knew what it was going to, where it could potentially go. And I called management and I said, listen, if we make a heavy rock record that's maybe, a little thrashy, a little metal, it's going to be way heavier than anything we've ever made. Are we screwing ourselves? Are we going to sell no albums and never get on the radio? Is it, which I'm okay with to a certain degree. I'm also not an idiot, and I don't want to be to kill our career with a dud.
Right.
So what are we looking at here? Give me the landscape. And to be honest, it's not necessarily all about selling albums anymore. I mean, in general, it's not, but it's also, especially for us, there's something bigger than that. I'm not saying don't buy our album. I love that fans are so supportive with the albums and everything, but at the same time, that's not the end-all, be-all of Linkin Park these days. People just listen to our music on YouTube for free over and over and over again, and we get, millions of hits on YouTube, and then they come to the shows, and I know that they're fans. It's not about,
right,
numbers. It's about, having the connection with the fan base. So that's why I say thank you to you guys for being, supportive of the band and to the fans, because I know that regardless of how you do it, I know people are out there enjoying it, and that's important to us.
Very good. Mike Shinoda, Linkin Park, brother, so good to talk to you. All the best to you, man, and we'll look forward to seeing you out this summer with 30 Seconds to Mars.
Thanks, man.